All right, let's dive right in today.
Sounds good to me.
We're taking a deep dive into Truman Capote's In Cold Blood.
Yeah.
It's a true crime classic.
Oh, for sure.
Really changed how we view the genre, you know?
Absolutely.
The book delves into this horrific 1959 murder,
Right.
the Clutter family in Holcomb, Kansas.
Mm-hmm. Small town.
Just seemingly so random,
Yeah.
just brutal, captivated the entire nation.
Yeah, I mean, a story like that, I think
Right.
it grabs you and it doesn't let go.
Yeah, and, their story, sadly, isn't unique.
Yeah.
But the way Capote tells it,
Right.
that's what makes it stand out.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely right. So.
I mean, he doesn't just give us the facts.
No.
He really immerses us in this small town.
Yeah.
Introduces us to the Clutters as they were in life.
Right.
Not just as victims,
Yeah.
And then he does the same thing.
Yeah.
With the killers.
Yeah.
Which is,
Okay.
that's really what makes the book special.
Yeah, and that's, I think, really part of the genius, right? He makes you feel like you know these people.
Yeah.
And that makes it all the more, I don't know, powerful and troubling too, right?
Right, exactly. So let's start with the Clutters.
Okay, yeah.
They were really pillars of their community, right?
Yeah. Salt of the earth kind of folks, yeah.
Herbert, a successful farmer.
Uh-huh.
His wife, Bonnie, involved in their church.
Yeah.
They had teenage children, Nancy and Kenyon, both well-liked, involved in school. I mean, really.
Just normal kids.
Normal, all-American.
Yeah.
And the picture that Capote paints,
yeah.
it's of this ordinary family.
Right.
Which is, I think that's part of what makes it even more terrifying.
Oh, absolutely, because it's relatable.
Right.
It could happen to anyone. That's the fear that it kind of instilled.
It just shatters that illusion of safety.
Right.
You have in small-town America.
Yeah, that's supposed to be the...
Right.
That's supposed to be the idyllic, safe place.
It wasn't some, inner-city crime.
Right.
This is a place where people, back then, left their doors unlocked.
Exactly, yeah.
And November 15th, 1959, that became a dividing line in that town.
Oh, yeah. It's before and after.
Right. Life before the murders and everything that came after.
Yeah, you can imagine, right?
Yeah.
Just the scar that it left on that community.
And the crime itself was brutal.
Yeah.
Bound, gagged, shot at close range, no forced entry, no sign of a struggle. It was...
They knew what they were doing.
Planned, methodical.
Yeah.
And as Capote makes clear,
right.
Utterly terrifying.
Chilling, yeah.
So the lack of any clear motive, right?
Yeah.
I think that is what initially just grips the reader.
It's the mystery, right? You're trying to figure out why. Why would someone do this?
Exactly. And robbery, everyone assumed that's what it was.
Seems obvious, right? Break into a house in the middle of the night.
Right.
You expect to find something to steal.
But very little of value was actually taken.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a crime of passion, a rage killing.
It doesn't fit those patterns.
There was no personal connection.
Right. So that just makes it even more unsettling.
Between the Clutters and the killers. So the question is, why were they targeted?
Right. And that's the question that the whole book sort of revolves around.
Exactly. And then we meet the killers, Carrie Smith and Dick Hickock.
Right.
Two ex-convicts drawn together by this petty theft gone wrong.
Yeah. Small-time crooks.
And a false rumor.
Yeah.
Of a hidden safe.
Filled with cash.
Filled with cash on the Clutter property.
Yeah. Which, of course,
right.
didn't exist.
Which didn't exist. And this is where Capote's writing really shines, I think.
Yeah.
He doesn't just tell us about Perry and Dick. He lets their personalities unfold, almost as if we're, meeting them ourselves.
Yeah, you're sitting across the table from them.
So Perry, haunted by this tragic childhood, prone to these violent outbursts, but also capable of these moments of, deep empathy.
There's a sensitivity there.
Yeah, even artistic expression, which is fascinating.
Yeah, there's a contradiction there, which is really interesting to explore.
Right, and it's such a stark contrast to Dick, who is...
night and day.
He's portrayed as charismatic.
Right. Very charming, can talk his way into and out of anything.
They're also shallow.
Yeah.
And impulsive.
Yeah, kind of a con man type.
Yeah, and the book delves into their dynamic, right?
Yeah.
Dick, the instigator.
Always looking for an angle.
Always dreaming of this easy money.
The get-rich-quick scheme.
Right. And Perry, the follower.
Right.
Drawn to Dick's promises of this better life.
Right. He sees Dick as his ticket out.
But ultimately wrestling with his own conscience.
Yeah. Perry is much more conflicted, right? He has a sense of right and wrong.
Right. I mean, think about that false rumor of the safe.
Yeah.
We can look at these two and say, cold-blooded killers.
Yeah. Easy to just write them off.
Easy to just write them off.
But it's more complicated than that.
That detail, it suggests this desperation.
Yeah.
This belief in, a quick fix.
That'll solve all their problems.
That'll solve all their problems. So
They were desperate.
their desperation led them to the Clutters.
Yeah.
And then on this cross-country escape.
Which Capote takes us along for the ride.
Right. Which the book also details,
It's almost like a road trip novel in parts.
Right. The Kansas Bureau of Investigation at the time.
Yeah.
They faced this baffling case.
Small town cops.
No witnesses.
Right.
No obvious suspects.
And a crime that makes no sense.
Right. And this small town just reeling.
Yeah. People looking over their shoulder.
On this shock.
Wondering if it could happen again.
It's like you're watching a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
As the investigation unfolds, the tension builds.
And Capote captures that really well.
Until Perry and Dick are finally apprehended.
Yeah.
In Las Vegas.
Yeah. All the way across the country.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you really see the impact that this has, not only on, obviously the family.
Right.
But on the community too, right?
Right.
He talks about how, people stopped trusting each other.
Right.
Suspicion was everywhere.
Yeah.
Neighbors turned against neighbors.
Exactly. He really masterfully captures that impact this crime had on the community.
Yeah. Capote was really a master of setting, right?
Right.
He could describe a place and you felt like you were there.
Yeah. His approach to the investigation is almost cinematic, too.
Yeah, yeah.
He shifts back and forth in time. So you're experiencing the mounting pressure.
On the investigators.
On law enforcement, but also
on the town itself.
The fear in Holcomb.
Yeah, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Exactly. And then come the confession.
To get to the confessions, this is where it takes a really dark turn. Yeah, this is where it gets really, really intense.
He spares no detail.
Right.
In recounting the events of that night.
Yeah, he wants you to know what happened.
But he forces the reader to confront, I think, this uncomfortable reality of evil.
Right, he doesn't shy away from it.
Right.
He makes you look at it.
So they are chilling.
Absolutely harrowing.
But he doesn't present them in this sensationalized way.
No. He's not trying to exploit.
He's not trying to, titillate.
Right. It's not about cheap thrills.
Right. Exploit the tragedy. He uses these confessions as a window into the minds.
Especially Perry's mind.
Of the killers, right.
Yeah.
Particularly Perry. You learn about his abusive childhood.
Right.
His insecurities.
And you start to see how his life led to this point.
Right. And you start to see how these experiences shaped him.
Right. You can draw a line from his past to his present.
It's not a justification.
Yeah. Of course not. No, absolutely not.
Obviously. But it adds this layer of complexity.
Which makes you think, right.
Well,
it makes you think about the nature of evil.
To the narrative.
Right.
That really sets this book apart.
Yeah.
From a typical true crime story.
He's doing something more than just telling a crime story.
Yeah. You're wrestling with your own judgments.
Right. He wants to engage the reader on a moral level.
Can we? Or should we feel any sympathy?
Right. It's a tough question.
For Perry.
Yeah.
Despite, what he did.
Despite the horrific nature of his crime.
Yeah. That's the point Capote wanted to make, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I think he was trying to.
I think so, too.
Yeah. He's trying to challenge us.
He challenged our assumptions about good and evil.
Right. It's not black and white.
To consider the gray areas.
The circumstances that shape us.
The circumstances.
Yeah. Right.
That can lead someone down this dark path.
Yeah. No one is born evil. Right.
Right. And
the fact... Something that happens.
He spent years in Holcomb.
He really immersed himself.
Building relationships with the residents.
Talking to everyone.
Attending the killer's trials.
Yeah.
Even becoming, a confidant to Perry on death row. That's...
talk about dedication to your craft.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
That level of immersion, it's evident on every page.
Oh, yeah.
And it's especially powerful when he's addressing, the death penalty.
Right.
He doesn't really take a stance for or against it.
Yeah. He's not trying to preach.
But he presents the years leading up to their executions. Perry and Dick.
Yeah.
With this rawness.
Yeah.
And honesty that I think is, captivating, but...
Yeah. It's hard to read, though.
Deeply unsettling.
It's hard to read because you know how it's going to end.
Right.
And he makes you feel every minute of it.
Exactly. And it's not just the physical act of execution he's exploring.
Right.
It's the psychological toll
Yeah.
on everyone
On everybody involved.
involved. He delves into, the debates surrounding capital punishment.
Mm-hmm. Which were just as fierce then as they are now.
Right.
Yeah.
The legal processes,
Yeah.
the moral arguments. I mean, you see the guards
Right. Just doing their...
grappling with their roles.
You can see it weighs on them.
The families
Yeah.
of the victims
Yeah.
wrestling with their grief,
Yeah.
their desire for retribution.
They want to see justice done.
And then Perry and Dick
Right.
facing their own mortality.
Knowing that the clock is ticking.
It's this multifaceted approach, I think.
Yeah.
The way he weaves together
Yeah.
the personal stories with these broader societal issues.
Right.
I think that's what makes it so much more
Yeah.
than just a true crime novel.
It's a great American novel, period.
Right. It's a commentary on, the American justice system,
Mm-hmm.
the human capacity for, cruelty and compassion.
Right. We see both sides of that coin.
Right. The enduring search for meaning, I think, in the face of senseless violence.
Yeah. Trying to find some meaning in this tragedy.
And it's a reminder that even in the most ordinary places,
Yeah, like Holcomb, Kansas.
darkness can lurk.
Evil can find you anywhere.
That the line between good and evil
Right.
is often blurred.
Yeah.
And that understanding the complexities of human nature,
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
the forces that shape us,
Our past experiences.
the choices we make.
Right.
I think it's essential if we really want to, grapple with these larger questions
Of justice. Yeah.
of justice and morality.
Exactly.
So think about that as you go about your day today.
Yeah.
The impact
That this one crime had.
this crime had on Holcomb. Imagine that ripple effect,
It spread out from there.
the conversations, the fear it instilled,
Yeah.
and how the community
Eventually had to pick up the pieces.
eventually had to rebuild itself.
Yeah.
What lessons can we learn?
Yeah, what can we learn from Holcomb?
Right. What lessons can we learn from their experience? How do we confront,
As individuals.
right, as individuals, the darkness
That's within us and around us.
that exists within ourselves and, within our society? I think these are the enduring questions that In Cold Blood leaves us to ponder.
Yeah, it's a book that stays with you
Absolutely.
long after you finish the last page.
It does. All right. That's our deep dive today.
Into Cold Blood.
In Cold Blood. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.